Step into a time machine back to the early 80s, a world where the local arcade was the ultimate hangout for kids seeking thrills and a chance to escape reality. Picture the neon lights, the cacophony of beeps and bleeps, and the air thick with excitement. Going to the arcade was an event, a pilgrimage of sorts, where we traded quarters for moments of pure gaming magic. But amidst the sea of pixelated classics, there was one game that turned the entire arcade scene on its head. Imagine a game that didn't just transport you into a digital realm, but made you feel like you were a part of the animated adventure. This was the birth of Dragon's Lair, a revolutionary game that shattered the boundaries of what was possible in interactive entertainment. In a world of 8-bit graphics and simple controls, Dragon's Lair emerged as a beacon of innovation. It blended state-of-the-art Laserdisc technology with the mesmerizing animation of Don Bluth, a former Disney animator. The result? A game that looked like a Saturday morning cartoon but let you control the hero's destiny. But that's not all. Dragon's Lair wasn't the only game pushing the boundaries of arcade entertainment during the 80s and 90s. Enter the scene-stealing American Laser Games, a company that took a bold leap by combining live-action footage with interactive gameplay. Picture yourself gripping a light gun, taking on outlaws in Mad Dog McCree, or battling drug lords in Crime Patrol 2. These games placed you right in the middle of a cinematic world where every shot counted, and split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death. And then there's Sega, a name synonymous with innovation in gaming. Ever heard of Time Traveler? It was the first holographic video game released in 1991. Imagine standing in front of a cabinet that looked like a portal to another dimension. You'd step up and suddenly you'd be battling your opponents with your trusty revolver, feeling the heat of molten lava and dodging threats that seemed to leap out of thin air. It was an astonishing marriage of technology and imagination, offering a glimpse into the future of arcade experiences. So whether you're mastering the light gun, braving the holographic realm, or guiding Dirk the Daring through the animated perils of Dragon's Lair, these games are more than just entertainment. They provided windows into extraordinary worlds, marked by innovation and sheer wonder. Luckily, there's one emulator that lets you play all these unique games at home. Hypseus Singe, a fork of Matt Ownby's legendary Daphne emulator. Hypseus Singe is propelling Daphne into the new millennium, presenting stunning HD and even 4K versions of these distinctive games. It doesn't stop there. There's a dose of extra fun with some exciting fan-made games as well. Be forewarned, this isn't an import ROMs click next type of install. This one is manual, and it's going to require a little bit of work. Are you up for a challenge? Let's go. We're going to head over to Dirtbag Zon's GitHub page. We're going to click on the Hypseus Singe section. We're going to grab the latest files. This is a changelog. Take some time, read it. Goes over some cool stuff, some recent changes. We're going to download a bunch of these files. We're going to grab the bezel pack, the subsystem, the emulator itself, the joystick configuration helper, the batch files, and the source code. Now I'm running Windows 11, so if you're on a Mac OS or Windows 32, grab those files. We're going to head back to Dirtbag Zon's GitHub page. I'm going to click on the Hypseus Singe data. I'm going to grab the latest release. I'm going to click on the source code.zip. Now this file is a little bigger than the other files we downloaded. It's going to take a little time, don't worry. Now we got our files downloaded. I have my download folder on my left, my LaunchBox folder on my right. We're going to select all, and we're going to extract all these files. Once those files are extracted, we're going to move the emulator into the LaunchBox emulator directory. Let's open up emulators, and let's open up Hypseus Singe. Head back. We're going to use the files we downloaded to populate the folders in the Hypseus Singe directory. Let's head into bezels. Let's grab them all, move them over into the bezels folder. Head back. This is the emulator we moved already. Let's grab the data folder, drag it into the root of Hypseus Singe. Head back. Let's grab the source code. Select all. We're going to be overwriting some files. That's okay. Replace. Head back. Let's grab the subsystem file, move it over. Now for the Windows BAT files, I'm going to leave them in my download directory. I want to use them as a reference to build my own BAT files. I may not bring every game over. I may not bring every version of the games over. I'm going to start with a nice and clean bat folder directory, and we'll populate it ourselves. Let's move over to our games folder and see what we're working with. So here's a handful of games. We have the original Dragon's Lair. It's a Daphne emulated game. It's the enhanced 2.1 version. We have Mad Dog McCree HD, Hypseus Singe, and we have Sega's Time Traveler, also Hypseus Singe. Let's start with Dragon's Lair. Let's head back to our bat files and take a look at what we need. So the sample bat file directory is listed by the type of game it is. Whether it's Action Max, Daphne game, or even Singe. Dirtbag Zon gives us a significant head start in getting these games running. In this case, we're looking for Daphne Dragon's Lair Enhanced 2.1. So it's Daphne-DLE 2.1. Here it is. We're going to take this bat file and we're going to drag it into our bat file folder. Let's double click on bat files and let's take a look at it. So what does this all mean and where do we have to put our games? Well, the bat file is going to run hypseus.exe and it's looking for the ROM DLE21. And the video files are stored in VLDP_DL/Lair with the frame file of Lair.txt. Going to run full screen. And these are some dip switches that old games used. You could check online for a reference. I use the defaults. This is some volume settings. Again, I stay with the defaults. And finally, the pause. Whenever there's a pause in a bat file, it simply means that once the program is done executing, you have to press any key to continue to get out of the bat file. If you're unsure of your commands and you want to see any error codes that Hypseus Singe throws back at you, leave the pause there. Now I need to modify this bat file to fit my needs. I'm going to keep my bat files in a nested folder structure, i.e. Hypseus Singe/bat files. So in order to do that, to launch the hypseus.exe, I have to go back up a directory. So we're going to do .. My VLDP files are also in a VLDP folder, not VLDP_DL. We're going to remove that DL. I'm going to add a fast boot switch to make games, especially Dragon's Lair, boot a little faster. And I'm going to remove that pause. I'm going to head over to File Save As. I'm going to select all files. I'm going to name this Dragon's Lair USA in parentheses. .bat. Make sure you add the .bat. Hit save, close. Now that we know where to place our games, let's go back to our games directory and start moving them over. I have my games folders on my left and my LaunchBox emulators Hypseus Singe folder on my right. Let's start by moving Dragon's Lair over. Let's head into our Dragon's Lair folder. Now this is Enhanced 2.1. Now all Daphne games have two different folders. They have the video files in the VLDP folders, and they have the ROM files in the ROM folders. We're simply going to take those two folders now, and we're going to drag them over to Hypseus Singe. Okay, we have our ROMs in our VLDP folder over. Let's take a quick check. Here's Lair, which is what the bat file was looking for, the frame file Lair.txt. Let's check out the ROMs. And there's the DLE21.zip ROM that the bat file was looking for. Now, if we double-click our Dragon's Lair bat, we should be greeted with a parsings video file, since it's the first time we're loading the game. Once the parsing is complete, we'll be greeted with that beautiful Dragon's Lair title screen. As you can see, it has a built-in scoreboard. It's going through its checks. And there's Dragon's Lair. Default controls, 5 insert coin, 1 player, 1 start, control sword, up, down, left, right arrow keys. Let's make sure those work. Goes in more of an order than the regular version. Great, Dragon's Lair works. Let's exit out. Let's create other versions of the Dragon's Lair game. The next bat file I'm going to create is going to remove the scoreboard from Dragon's Lair, and it's also going to add a bezel. So let's take a look at the bezels we copied from Dirtbags On's GitHub. So I'm in a Hypseus Singe bezels Daphne directory. Since it is a Daphne game, let's take a look at some bezels. There's a default Daphne bezel. There's a standard side piece Dragon's Lair bezel. And there's the same side piece with a bezel. I think I'm going to grab that one. So let's remember it's in Bezels Daphne version 2. Let's go create another Dragon's Lair bat file. With our Dragon's Lair bat file open, let's add -bezel. Now, Hypseus Singe is going to assume you have your bezels in the bezel directory. We have to tell the bat file where after the default directory are the bezels. In our case, it's going to be /Daphne/version2/ file name is lair.ping. We want to use forward slashes in this case. We're going to space, and then we're going to add -no scoreboard. We're going to go up to File, Save As, and we're going to add after parentheses USA, parentheses, bezel, space, no scoreboard, just so we know what we're running and when we import it into LaunchBox, what it actually does. Now that we have the file created, let's test it and see what we have. Great. There's our bezel, no scoreboard. Let's exit out, and let's do the same thing for Dog McCree. Okay, got my games folder on my left, Hypseus Singe folder on my right. Let's go to Dog McCree. So Dog McCree is a Singe game. It's a little different than a Daphne game. Singe games go in the Singe directory, so we're just going to drag this over. Let's take a look at our Singe directory. Right now we have our Dog HD, which is all the Dog McCree files. Let's head back. Now we need to add a framework folder into the Singe folder. Now we get that folder from the data directory that we brought over. We're going to go into Singe 2. There's going to be some other games in here. We're not concerned with that right now. We just want the framework folder. We're going to copy it. Let's head back into Singe and paste it here. Now that we got the game files over and the framework folder inside of Singe, let's find that Dog HD bat file and modify it to our needs. It is a Singe game, so we're going to go into Singe section, Dog HD, Many Mouse. We want to grab the Many Mouse version. Many Mouse allows you to use your mouse as your light gun. We're going to throw that into the bat file. We're going to modify that. We got to do the // before Hypseus.exe. We have all our files in the right spot. Let's delete the pause. Save as. We're going to call this Dog McCree, parentheses USA. No other switches, so we're just going to save it .bat. Let's close it out. Now let's test. Okay, looks good. Same controls, 5 insert coin, 1 start. Move your mouse around. Left button shoots, right button reloads. It looks good. Let's add Dog McCree with a bezel now. Right now I'm in Bezels, Singe, Gun Games. I'm going to grab this Dog.ping. Looks good. Now, if you do have a Sinden light gun, they do provide you Sinden bezels. I don't have one right now. Fortunately, it's not going to be here for 2 weeks. Maybe when it comes, I'll do a video on how to create a playlist for gun games and MAME and food for thought. I have my Dog bat file open. We're going to add bezel. Remember what's after Daphne. So it's going to be Singe, Gun Games. And I want to say Dog.ping. That's file save as. And we're going to just add to this parentheses bezel. Let's try it out. We got our bezel. Let's do the same with Time Traveler. Well, let's add gamepad support. To create a gamepad setup in Hypseus Singe, we'll begin by crafting a new hipinput.ini file. Fortunately, the source code we downloaded provides us with a pre-configured one tailored to use with an Xbox-style gamepad. Here's the process. We're going to head to the doc directory and grab the hipinput_gamepad.ini file. We're going to move that file into the root directory of our Hypseus Singe installation. Let's rename the default hipinput.ini to hipinput.back just in case we want to revert back. Finally, rename hipinput_gamepad.ini to hipinput.ini. Sounds confusing, it's pretty easy. Let's take a look at the hipinput.ini. You can see it's got D-pad controls, access controls. Let's take a look at the back file. Pretty much just standard keyboard controls. That's why we had to change it. Luckily, Dirtbag's On gives us that file. It's easy to just rename it and copy it over. That's all it takes to get your Xbox-style gamepad up and running with Hypseus Singe. If you wish to customize your controller further, you can utilize the hipsc.exe to obtain the proper SDL codes to enter into hipinput.ini. However, that's a topic for a different day. The default controls work just fine. Now let's proceed to transfer Time Traveler and adjust the batch file to fully utilize our freshly configured joystick control. Like Mad Dog McCree, Time Traveler is a Singe game, so we're going to take Time Traveler, move that into the Singe directory. Back to my bat files, let's find Singe Time Traveler. Here it is, place it into the bat files directory. We're going to make a change to it. Let's make sure Hypseus can run. And then we're going to add the switch gamepad. Now we'll be able to utilize a newly configured gamepad to use for Time Traveler. Let's get rid of the pause. File, save as. We're going to call it Time Traveler USA Gamepad. Let's run it and see if it works. I'm going to hit what I call a select button to insert coins. Start to start the game. D-pad is working. X is the action button. This configuration holds true for most games. Start and select to exit game. We're finally ready to import our Hypseus Singe games into LaunchBox. Prior to opening LaunchBox, I created a couple of other bat files, including Time Travelers with a bezel, Dragon's Lair using a gamepad. I also deleted whatever source bat files I had in there before I renamed them. So I have a nice and clean set to import into LaunchBox. Now into LaunchBox, we're going to simply click Import ROM Files. Next, Add Folder. We're going to point to our Hypseus Singe bat file directory. We're going to import those. Next, we're going to import these into Arcade because that's what they are. Now for emulator, we're not going to choose one. Remember, the bat file is doing all the work. It's telling LaunchBox what to load, which is Hypseus Singe exe. It's kind of doing two things. It's acting as a ROM file, and it's telling LaunchBox what to do. So bat file comes in real handy. We're going to use the files in their current location. We're going to search the database. We're going to search Emu movies. Fault. Next. These are the files we're bringing in. Now, the reason why we used bezel and no scoreboard, etc., inside of a parentheses, so that doesn't interfere with LaunchBox's metadata lookup. LaunchBox is smart enough to combine that with Dragon's Lair and make that a version. So now if we want to play Dragon's Lair, bezel, no scoreboard, gamepad, right click on Dragon's Lair, select play version, pick the version you want. Select button, entering coins.
Where you become a valiant knight on a quest to rescue the fair princess from the
Starts the game. And we have Dragon's Lair with a gamepad. Again, start and select exits, and we're back in LaunchBox. That's it. Took us a long time to get to this point, but we have to make sure Hypseus Singe is set up and working properly as a standalone. Like I said earlier, this is not a quick import ROMs, click next, play game type of installation. We get there eventually. You got to work for this one. And believe me, it's worth it in the end. As always, drop a comment down below, any comments or suggestions. This is RetroPython for LaunchBox. Till next time, happy gaming.